everybody, and welcome to the KNXT coverage of the Toyota Grand Prix from Long Beach, round one of the World Championship for Grand Prix cars. My name's David Hobbs, and helping me on the show is Ken Squire.
Well, relax if you can, Southern California. Just sit back, get a firm hold on your seatbelt, and prepare to enjoy this near $1 million race. 24 starters from 15 countries. All the significant happenings of today's Long Beach Grand Prix. And welcome back to Long Beach, California, where race number one for the World Championship of Motor Racing is just underway. And you're watching Riccardo Patrese out in front in lap number 5 of 80. Working lap number 5, Patrese, who put an Arrows car on the pole for the first time in the history of that team, and for his first time as well. He is being chased by a former winner of this event, Carlos Reutemann, and second place, while in third lies Alan Jones, last year's world champion. Working with me in the booth is David Hobbs today. There's Patrese coming down the Linden Boulevard into the artificial part of the course. At the Queen's Hairpin is the 1979 world champion Jody Scheckter, Barry Gill, Brock Yates along in the pits for today's coverage, and giving us some of the color and commentary of this event, Jim Hill will be with us as well for our 1981 coverage of the very first race of the year. The first time in history that the Grand Prix circuit has begun in the United States. And of course, we have two Americans in the top 10 today in qualifying. One, Mario Andretti, car number 22, driving for Alfa Romeo. And the second is Eddie Cheever, who qualified beautifully with one of the Ken Tyrrell automobiles. Cheever is currently being shown in 8th position, while in 9th is Andretti.
And there we see Patrese leading Carlos Reutemann through the Queensway hairpin. Patrese putting on a great show today. He's under a lot of pressure because he's not led many Grand Prix before. He certainly hasn't won once. And of course, Reutemann giving him a hard time.
Let's take a look at the start once again. It was some moment when they came off the line. There was Riccardo Patrese away beside him, the Alan Jones and Reutemann cars. And as they thundered down into the first turn, one of the Ferraris, we believe Peroni, made this big bid on the outside, scooting by machines as they came into the Queen's Hairpin. Watch the red car on the outside, almost missed the turn. At the same time, go ahead, David.
This is what's called the classic win at the first lap syndrome. He tried to get the lead from an impossible position. And of course, this fracas ensued, and that is the Renault there of Alain Prost, the young Frenchman who drove for McLaren last year, out of the race at the first turn.
Bumped off Hector Rabach, we believe.
From Long Beach, California, CBS Sports presents the 1981 Long Beach Grand Prix. Sponsored by the fuel-efficient motor oil that's fact, not friction.
With 6 laps completed, Riccardo Patrese has the lead. This race has been won 3 of 5 times from the pole position. But Patrese has a propensity for finding fences, David. The question is, can he stand the pressure that is being exerted by the FW07 cars, the Williams team? Argentina's Carlos Reutemann in second, Australia's Alan Jones in hot pursuit in third place. Here they are at 145 miles an hour down Ocean Boulevard, on the brakes, back into second gear as they lurch down the street, down Linden Avenue, into the artificial part of the course, as Patrese of Italy stays in front. Nelson Piquet still very much in the hunt. As they come around to complete lap number 9 of 80 on this 2.02 mile course, Patrese stays in the lead, and it is John Watson pitting one of the McLaren cars. Watson just pulling on pit road. There's your leader, Patrese, with the Williams cars running in 2 and 3. Carlos Reutemann, who won this event in 1978, stays in second place. The race is stabilized, so let's for a moment take a look as we head to join the race in progress at the starting grid for today's round number 1 of the World Championship of Auto Racing. For the first time in his career, Riccardo Patrese driving for Team Arrows, and beside him, Alan Jones, the world champion. In row 2, it'll be Carlos Reutemann, the winner here in 1978, and last year's winner, Nelson Piquet. Row number 3, a former winner, Gilles Villeneuve, and the 1978 Long Beach champion, Mario Andretti. In row number 4, from the United States, Eddie Cheever is matched up against Nigel Mansell of England. Then in row 5, it's Bruno Giacomelli for Alfa Romeo and Jean-Pierre Jarier. In row number 6, Didier Pironi for Ferrari and Jacques Lafitte for Ligier. Row number 7 will be Elio De Angelis, driving for the Lotus team, and Alain Prost. In row number 8, Hector Rabach, and it's Keke Rosberg on the outside. In row number 9, Patrick Tambay in the Theodore and Chico Serra in a Fittipaldi. Row number 10, Mark Schurer of Switzerland, and beside him, Rini Arnoux in one of the Renaults. Row 11 is Jans Lammer, and beside him is De Cesare of Italy. Then in the final row, row 12, it's John Watson for McLaren and Pepe Gabbiani, a new driver. So that is how they lined up at the start. We had to join this event in progress as the Doral took a little longer to be decided today than had been expected. And the green flag came down with Patrese out in front. He is not giving up on that, as still second is Carlos Reutemann, putting on some pressure. Falling back a little, David Hobbs, is Alan Jones at the present time in third place.
Well, Riccardo Patrese made a great start. He did some electrifying laps in qualifying yesterday. He was consistently in the top 2 or 3. He ended up on the pole. Alan Jones had led most of the qualifying times. There we see Riccardo up in the top right-hand corner there. Alan Jones had been leading qualifying, ultimately dropped to second spot. And today he's not hanging on, but of course there's a long way to go yet. His teammate Carlos Reutemann, of course, giving Patrese a pretty hard time. And Riccardo has led some Grand Prix before, but he's never won one, and he's never been on the pole before, so this is a strong test for him.
The 1979 world champion Jody Scheckter is down at turn number the Queen's Hairpin. As we look a little further back in the pack, they're going through the Queen's Hairpin right now. How about it, Jody Scheckter? Some comments from you about what you've seen thus far.
Well, I see the importance of setting the car. Riccardo Patrese is just in front of Carlos Reutemann, and that's where it's so important to have a speed down the straight. Now, Riccardo Patrese was very fast down the straight, but Carlos Reutemann just can't get behind him to get his slipstream to pass him into Queensway Hairpin. I see also the world champion dropping back slightly and really battling to hold on.
You're watching the 5th place car here, number 28. That is Didier Pironi, who made that wild move on the outside. Right behind him is last year's winner, Nelson Piquet. And then Canada's great champion, Gilles Villeneuve, whose brother Jacques Villeneuve won the Formula Atlantic race here this weekend. There were several other events, and his brother, who's a great snowmobile champion, came through with flying colors in Formula Atlantic. Let's go to Brock Yates in the pits.
Ken, I'm down here with Bernie Ecclestone, one of the most colorful and powerful men in this sport. He's the head of the Brabham team, and he's watching a little television this afternoon, Bernie. You're watching a little television this afternoon.
That's the best way to watch motor races on TV.
How are we doing? Are we catching all the action?
Yeah, it looks good. Looks very good.
More seriously, Nelson is running well, but perhaps not as close to the front as you'd like it.
No, I think he's being held up by Pironi. You know, the Ferraris aren't that quick, and I think they're holding him up. And he's going to lose contact with the leaders. That's the problem.
What do you do on a short course like this? It's so hard to race, to pass on when you do get bogged down behind a quicker car.
I think all you can do is praying. You know, you just got to stay there, keep out of trouble, and hope.
Well, have a good day watching television. Bernie Ecclestone, back to you, Ken.
Patrese, as you see him in first, Reutemann second, Jones third, Pironi fourth, Nelson Piquet fifth, Villeneuve sixth, Eddie Cheever of the United States is seventh. Mario Andretti has dropped from 6th into 8th position, while in 9th is Lafitte, and Keke Rosberg runs in 10th. And there you see Carlos Reutemann of Argentina moving in closely on the leader. Meanwhile, being challenged is Alan Jones.
Alan Jones was in fact lapping Hector Ribark there, who got involved in that chamozzle at the first corner with Alain Prost. But it is interesting to note that Alan Jones is in fact definitely losing contact with this leading bunch. And I'm sure that Nelson Piquet, there we see in number 5, following Didier Pironi, must be just hoping like heck to be able to get round Pironi before the leading bunch get too far away.
Watching the battle for 4th and the rest of the field coming through there. There you saw the new red and white colors from Mario Andretti driving for Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo making an arrangement with him for the year. And there's Eddie Cheever as Dave Dyston changed positions once again. Slipping back a spot is Eddie Cheever. Mario Andretti moves up again into 7th as they go back and forth.
Is one of America's bright hopes. He lives in Rome. He spent most of his life in Rome, but of course he is an American.
Battle for 4th, and there you see Didier Pironi in the red Ferrari. Behind him, Nelson Piquet of Brazil. Then comes Villeneuve of Canada, then Eddie Cheever of the United States, then Mario Andretti.
Mario is one of the men that and there's Nelson having to go on the inside there, but this is no track to pass in the wrong place because it's all walls.
Didier Pironi stays in 4th. Patrese stays in front. And let's go to one of Europe's top racing journalists in the pits, Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, I'm here in the Renault pit with René Arnoux. René Arnoux, remember the man who got pole position last year in the turbocharged Renault. Enormous problems here. He came rushing in, they changed the tyres, then they examined the brakes, the engine is off, and René Arnoux is not going to win this Grand Prix for Renault. Back to you, Ken.
Renault came up last year. 2 years ago they were here and didn't qualify. Last year they were on the front in the second row, and this year they were right in the middle and the back of the pack. They're having a very checkered career in racing.
Pressure still stays on the leader. Carlos Reutemann in the number 2 car, challenging the number 29 all the way around the circuit. Patrese driving for Jackie Oliver's team Arrows, which is up in front, as we mentioned earlier, for the first time in history from the pole, staying just barely in front of the great Argentinian car number 2 in second place. Alan Jones, the world champion, maintaining third. Continues to catch up. The world champion Jones continuing to catch up. Car number 2, Carlos Reutemann, by about a second a lap as he thunders back onto Ocean Boulevard. Alan Jones looking for his second world championship in a row, and what a start. Only 6 drivers of 24 would score points, and here you see Reutemann being blocked by 2 cars, one of the Fittipaldi cars and the other Arrows automobile, as Reutemann tries to move through, and now they give him a little room, but Alan Jones is right there, David.
Alan Jones nearly got his nose chucked up there by Chico Serra, who's driving Emerson Fittipaldi's car. There we see Reutemann leading this race, but in front of him now, on the road, is our ex-leader, Riccardo Patrese, who's come back into the race and seems to be going just as well as ever, but of course, unfortunately, he's about to be a lap down. Alan Jones is caught right up with his teammate Carlos Reutemann. There we see the 4th place car of Nelson Piquet, number 5, followed by Gilles Villeneuve in number 27 Ferrari, the turbocharged Ferrari. Nelson Piquet in 3rd spot, Villeneuve in 4th.
Right behind them in 6th is Mario Andretti, and now it's Eddie Cheever. Cheever's come around again. There is Eddie Cheever, the United States, and right behind him Mario Andretti, and they've been having a tremendous dice for 5th position. Eddie Cheever, who spent most of his life outside the United States in Italy, and for the last several years has been dedicating himself to Formula 2 racing, taking over in a Ken Tyrrell automobile and fighting with the former world champion Mario Andretti, 2 United States campaigners, battling here for 5th position in the Long Beach Grand Prix as we reach the 30 lap. Only 50 to go here today, and the battle for the front is also enjoyed. There again is Nelson Piquet, your 4th place car, with the 5th place car, Didier Pironi's Ferrari, and now look at Mario Andretti move up on Eddie Cheever another time.
And I keep on calling Pironi Villeneuve. I think the Villeneuve supporters club must have sent me a check or something. There we see Mario Andretti, car number 22, the Alfa Romeo, the V12 engine car, harrying his team, his countrymate Eddie Cheever through these S's as they come up to turn 11, this little right-hand turn here. They get very close to the wall on the exit, rush up the short hill here to the commentary spot where we are, round turn 12, getting really close to that wall on the outside, and off along the start, finish straight here.
Lafitte stays in 7th. Jacques Lafitte staying in 7th, right behind them. There is Cheever in 5th, in 6th, Andretti. Andretti, who used to watch Alfa Romeos back in the 40s in motion picture houses in Italy. Then at the age of 15, his father moved to Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and he grew up on the midgets and sprint circuits in the Pennsylvania area, now back trying to become what he wants to be in racing, the most versatile driver in history. And for my money, he certainly is that. A winner at everything he's touched his hand to.
I think it's unquestionable that in the current Grand Prix scene, Mario Andretti is by far the most versatile driver.
There's your leader, Carlos Reutemann, and here's Alan Jones closing in again.
Yes, and it's interesting to see that poor old Riccardo Patrese is going so well there, but unfortunately, as I say, he's now 1 lap down. Led this race so magnificently. Obviously, some small problem with the engine, which is now fixed, but it's too late.
It's not just the race, but it is the social setting. This is the high-speed, high-society circuit. Millions of dollars invested in these cars. They travel from all over the world, drivers from 15 countries here. And as much a part of the race, ambiance of it, is what goes on in the tents around this thing. And let's go right now to Jim Hill, who is standing by at one of the parties. Aha, I think we're at a champagne party where they're opening a bottle in the most European manner, David, saber and all.
Well, I'm interested to see that because the gentleman who did that works for a well-known champagne company in France, and he did that for me on my 40th birthday when I took part in Le Mans just 2 years ago, and he opened a bottle for me like that, which we have at home at the current time. Sans top, which he removed with that sword. A rather death-looking blow. You wonder what he's going to do when he brings that sword in.
Leader change. Carlos Reutemann falling back. Alan Jones takes over. Alan Jones, who's had a lot of misfortune in this race. Remember the car with the front wing that looked like a Cocker Spaniel's ears 2 or 3 years ago? Looked like he was going to win that year. Well, now here he comes. The son of the great Australian champion Stan Jones. Alan Jones is now in first place. Won't that be something if after all these years the first man who is able to sustain a drive in year number 2, like Jack Brabham, is Alan Jones.
That'll be 2 Australians to 2, that's for sure. Alan Jones has looked extremely strong all weekend. Obviously had a bit of a sinking spell at the beginning of this race, or maybe he was just letting the car settle down on full tanks. But whatever the reason, he's now going very, very strongly and pulling away from his teammate Carlos Reutemann, who in turn is well ahead of Nelson Piquet running in 3rd spot, who's still been closely harried by Pironi in 4th spot.
And behind that 4th position at the present time comes Eddie Cheever moving to 5th, Mario Andretti to 6th, Lafitte to 7th, Rosberg in 8th, and we can look at that leader change and replay right now. See the maneuver that put a bit of a bump as it came around the ensign.
Well, what happened, they were lapping young Mark Surer in the ensign there, and he didn't give Reutemann quite enough room, had to back off the throttle, and that gave Jones the chance he needed. But having got the lead, he seems to be quite content to pull away a bit. Now they've got the Renault between them.
But the Renault moves over and lets the leader go through. Number 16, Alain Prost, in the French turbocharged Renault automobile. And Ferrari brings their turbos here as well. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, Ken, I'm looking into the eyes of the most disappointed man in motor racing, Riccardo Patrese. This really was going to be this 26-year-old's first victory. He came in with a mystery fault in the engine. They've changed the spark box. He's back now with the same problem. But to look into this cockpit and see this man's despair is to show the other side of motor racing. Back to you, Ken.
33 of the 80 laps have now been completed here in the Long Beach Grand Prix, which for the first time in history sees a World Championship debut on United States soil. Came about because of all the disagreement and hassling that's been going on. And here's another dice for the lead.
Well, this is very interesting now because Carlos Reutemann was, for me, the stronger out of the Alan Jones. He was strong in the beginning of the race. He was held up. Carlos Reutemann was held up, and Alan Jones got past him. So I believe there's no team orders, and I want to see if Carlos Reutemann can get him back. This is going to be quite interesting and a very exciting.
The battle continuing for first place as Carlos Reutemann is certainly giving his best shot to move up in the standings.
Well, they've now got Ulrich to Ribarke between them. In the second works Brabham. Carlos Reutemann having a go at him there into turn 12. Ribarke not letting him have room. This will be making old Reutemann see red as he sees his team leader, his ostensible team leader, pull away from him.
No team orders was what Barry Gill was just referring to.
That's right.
No, it's very important here. Because one might have wondered if Reutemann had been told to give ground, but you saw the ensign get in his way, so that was not the order of the day. They're out there racing for first place, and Reutemann has been very, very cool, very, very intent upon this race. I believe he likes this course, too.
He does indeed, and I don't think he's going to take second place from Alan Jones without trying at least to regain this spot.
Meanwhile, we've had a shift of position. Andretti has dropped back to 7th. Jacques Lafitte has pulled up into 6th. The 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo has dropped to 7th, so he's just out of a point-scoring position. Only 6 cars score points in a World Championship Formula One race. 9 points for win, 6 for second, then 4, 3, 2, 1. And right now, the big 9 belongs to Alan Jones.
It's interesting to see that these 2 cars of Alan Jones and Carlos Reutemann, the Frank Williams team's cars, are doing so well because all the arguments we've been having over the last 9 months between the Formula One Constructors Association and the governing body in France, the Williams teams are one of the companies that thought they were going to get the wrong end of the stick this year.
Hairpin here at the Toyota Long Beach Grand Prix. Don't forget next Saturday's Sports Spectacular. Top-ranked gymnasts expected include 14-year-old Tracy Talavera and 15-year-old Julie McNamara. That's next week on the CBS Sports Spectacular. Here at Long Beach, California, we are now operating in the 37th lap. And we see Alan Jones in command of the event. He is running in front of his teammate Carlos Reutemann in 2nd, Piquet in 3rd, Pironi 4th, Cheever 5th, Lafitte is in 6th, Andretti in 7th, Giacomelli is 8th, Patrick Tomei has picked up 1 position. He's moved into 9th position with Theodore, and the Fittipaldi car has dropped to 10th. Then comes Jerry Asher and Serra.
As I was saying before we went away to commercial there, over the winter there's been some awfully long faces in some of these Formula One constructors' camps. People like Alan Jones and Frank Williams have been walking around with their jaws on the floor, thinking that when the skirts were taken off these cars, they had been in a hopelessly uncompetitive position against the more powerful cars of Renault, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. And of course, it hasn't been the case at all. Here they are, first and second.
How do you feel about trying for a world championship was a question we posed to Alan Jones, and this is what Alan Jones had to tell us about this effort for a second straight world title.
Well, it's something I very much want to do, just to prove everybody wrong. Frank Williams is a very competitive and aggressive person, and in fact everybody in our whole team is that way. And I feel as long as we have this sort of attitude and we have sufficient sponsorship, which we have from Leyland and the Saudis, I think it's going to be possible.
To you today, Jody Scheckter.
Well, I think it's a very impressive run for Eddie Cheever. I think it's the best result the Tyrrell's having for a long time.
Jacques Lafitte with that 12-cylinder car, the Matra-powered Ligier car, running very well in his 92nd Grand Prix today. Eddie Cheever in the Ford V8, the Ford Cosworth car, and only his 12th Grand Prix. And there you see Cheever, and right behind him Jacques Lafitte, as you watch the battle for fifth, beginning to get together on Ocean Boulevard.
And Jacques Lafitte is really giving Eddie Cheever a hard time. Through the S's there, he was right behind him. Through those S's, the car of Lafitte seems to be just a little bit quicker, but Eddie Cheever's doing a good job here, and of course, Lafitte is the meat in the American sandwich, because right behind Lafitte is still Mario Andretti.
Eddie, let's go to Barry Gill.
Ken Tyrrell, tremendous battle between Eddie Cheever and Jacques Lafitte. How are you feeling about it?
I think seeing that this is Eddie's first World Championship race with us, I think he's doing a hell of a fine job.
Ken, you picked Jackie Stewart, you picked Jackie Hicks, you picked John Surtees. How did you pick Eddie Cheever? What impresses you about him?
Well, I followed his performances last year in a very uncompetitive car, and I thought what a great job he made of trying to get that car to work. So I took him for a test session, and he proved to me that he was able to relate to the engineers how the car was behaving. I haven't had anybody driving my cars who could do that since Jackie Stewart drove for me.
What a great compliment. And you, Jackie Stewart, on the American scene. Back to you, Ken.
It is a tremendous battle being waged for that position. Here is Lafitte back to the inside, trying to move under, and Eddie Cheever cuts him off as they go on to Ocean Boulevard.
Well, you've just got to give way here, because there's no point trying to force the issue, because if you do, you're going to run into the wall.
Half the distance. They are halfway home. 40 laps remaining.
I think Eddie, in fact, maybe just running into some mechanical problems. I think he slowed up a bit because Lafitte and Mario are right with him, giving him a hard time. Maybe his tyres are starting to go off a little bit, or even the engine. But they are definitely making ground on him.
Jody Scheckter, a few moments ago, we had a report that Andretti's car, the 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo, seemed to be sliding a lot. There's your leader, number 1, Alan Jones. Does the Alfa Romeo number 22 of Mario Andretti look like it's having some problems in handling to you? Jody?
Everybody's running the same tires, you see, so I think that if you can conserve your tires, because if you slide the car, you overheat them, and in fact, it goes slower.
United States, and here's Eddie Cheever, still holding on in front of Jacques Lafitte. That is some struggle that's going on between the three. It is Cheever just in front, then Jacques Lafitte, then Mario Andretti. Lafitte coming down to the inside, and Eddie Cheever in trouble. Is the car of Jacques Lafitte, the nose bent up, the wing bent back, and that will be tout fini for Jacques Lafitte.
Well, it's very apropos that you should use French for the French driver. Poor old Jacques just tried a little bit too hard there. Eddie Cheever wasn't going to have any of it. Cut across it was his corner. It was still Eddie Cheever's corner, and poor old Jacques lost that front wing. Some of these cars have got very, very protuberant wings. They do stick out a long way, and it's difficult to judge exactly where they are.
He'll be lucky to have that stay on all the way around. That could fall off and give us a serious condition on the track. I'm sure the corner workers are being told to be vigilant of car number 26, Jacques Lafitte. Let's look at it again and replay as they came to the end of Ocean Boulevard and made the pitch down Linden Avenue where this incident took place.
Ooh, yes, there was, he just ran straight into the back of Eddie Cheever by the look of things. And either a terrible missed error of judgment on Lafitte's part, or Cheever may have just suddenly slowed up on him. A bit difficult to tell in that short clip. But whatever it was, he took that front wing off well and truly on Cheever's rear tire.
That moves Mario Andretti back to 6th and right on the rear deck of Eddie Cheever's car. Mario Andretti is running right behind Eddie Cheever. And for the first time in years, since perhaps 1968, when Ginther was running Gurney, we have two Americans back-to-back coming down the main straightaway. We have a bad crash in 6. We understand that a car has come in serious contact with the wall at turn 6 and trying to pick himself up and come in is Bruno Giacomelli.
And Jan Lammers. Jan Lammers' car has been well and truly tweaked there.
Giacomelli and Lammers both have retired and come in after just below us, thumping the concrete. But here's the battle. It's Mario Andretti, now running in the 6th position, directly behind the 5th position man, the Tyrrell car of Eddie Cheever.
Well, I think Eddie's tyres must be going off because he seems to be able to hold his end up on the straight bits, but through the turns he is definitely slower than his pursuers. Jack Lafitte being one, who has got rid of him, and now he's got Mario Andretti giving him a hard time. Mario Andretti making up a lot of ground on braking there. And through this hairpin, there's not much in it, but you wait till they come to the S's here, and Mario will probably close right up on him, which leads me to believe that Cheever's tyres are probably starting to go off, and they're about to lap that car there, that white car of Hector Ribart. I'm sorry, number 21, that's Chico Serra in the Fittipaldi car.
Eddie Cheever stays right in front of Mario Andretti, a V8 in front of a 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo may win a race before this year is over. That is for sure with Mario. There's Andretti down the inside. Andretti is running wheel to wheel with Cheever. As they come to Linden and Cheever has to give ground, Mario Andretti takes over in 5th.
Well, Eddie did have to give ground there. You saw him lock up just at a crucial moment there. Smoke coming off his front tyres. You've got to be a bit careful doing that too much in these races. Otherwise, it's like racing on cardboard boxes. They get horribly square. Liable to come in, have vibrations up your arms for a week.
To review again, Jones in 1st, Reutemann now 2nd, Piquet 3rd, Peroni 4th, and moving to 5th. Mario Andretti of Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Eddie Cheever is in the 6th position with the 7th position, Patrick Tambay.
It'll be, as Barry Gill said, we're only halfway through this race and we have lost exactly half the field. We started with 24 cars and we now have got only 12 cars running, most of whom are running on the same lap with only 12 left running.
We mentioned the fact how hard it is to win the World Championship, the modern Formula 1 series. Back-to-back, only one driver in history has won it more than 2 years in a row, and that goes back to the very beginning when Fangio won 54, 55, 56, 7. But he swapped teams all the time. Mercedes, Maserati, Ferrari. Alan Jones hanging his hat and his hopes with the Williams teams. And speaking of Ferrari, there you see the car of Didier Pironi now running in 4th position and having a very good run today.
Having a very good run, but large in his mirrors looms the red and white car, the red and white Alfa Romeo of Mario Andretti.
So you have Italian cars running 4th and 5th. 12 cars still running, David?
There's 12 cars still running, right.
Of the 24 that started. And the lap count now shows that a total of 48 laps have been completed, 32 remaining.
Mario starting to pile on the pressure. I'm fully expecting to see Mario win 2 or 3 Grand Prix this year. The car's got a lot of power. It handles well. He's a great test and development driver. And I think he's going to be able to work extremely well with the team, just like you heard say. He can communicate well with them. And I think towards the year's end, or even earlier than that, we're going to start seeing Mario Andretti scoring wins again in Grand Prix racing.
One Grand Prix, that in Belgium a year ago, moving to Jody Schechter's position. How does that Ferrari look to you? You broke with them a year ago, Jody.
The Ferrari looks very good for its first race out, but I think that the battle now between Mario Andretti and Didier Pironi in the Ferrari is going to be interesting, because the Ferrari with the turbo engine is very fast down the straight, and that's where Mario's going to be looking to overtake him. So he's going to have a lot of difficulty getting past the superior speed of the Ferrari.
Running in the 4th position in this Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach is Didier Pironi, and there is Mario Andretti closing up once again with car number 22. A little lower line, closer to the pit wall as he moves down Ocean Boulevard, out of the binders and down the hill.
Well, you know, old Mario's getting a bit old now, and he has to drive close to the pit wall so he can read his pit signals. It's interesting to note that the Ferrari, in its very first World Championship race in turbocharged form, has done so well in the hands of Didier Pironi and Renault, who've now been running turbocharged cars in sports car racing and Formula 1 for the last 5 years, are both out of this race. Admittedly, one of them with an accident on the start line, but they didn't look hot all weekend. They've been way off the pace. There we see Pironi screaming down Shoreline Drive. As Jody's just said, he's definitely faster down this long, fast piece of track, and Mario's going to have to hang on as best he can.
go to Barry Gill.
There was a time, Ken, when a pit wall like this would be decorated by very pretty young ladies with stopwatches, adding up machines, pencil and paper to keep timing. Unfortunately, in this modern world of motor racing, all that has changed. Behind me, you see the most sophisticated timing equipment you could wish for. It's all electronic and microchip. Every time a car goes past, a little ray catches the time. Out comes the printout. And it means that these people behind me in the Ferrari pit know exactly what their car is doing and what every other car is doing. The trouble is that Gilles Villeneuve, standing in that picture, which is he was out there doing it, he's not watching what's happening.
Thank you, Barry. Alan Jones stays in first, Carlos Reutemann in second, Piquet third, Pironi fourth, Andretti is fifth, followed by Cheever, Tambay, Jarier. That's the front field.
Nice problem here. He looks very slow initially as he comes off these corners. I suspect something's gone wrong with the system, and he's suffering from the dreaded throttle lag.
Andretti moving in. Looks to me like
someone had a spin, and then that's
Theodore. That was the Patrick Tambay car in trouble, just in front of the leader. Number 1, Alan Jones.
Patrick Tambay, known to American race fans as the winner of the Can-Am Championship twice now. Driving for one Carl A. Haas in Chicago.
Now driving for Teddy Yip from Powell. Back to the battle as it goes by Jody Scheckter, and Andretti is really gathering him up there, Jody.
On the infield, he's really catching him, but his problem again, he's down the straight. The turbo's got the legs on Mario, and he's going to have a problem getting past him, but I think he's going to try and get him on the infield some way.
Mario Andretti still
very slow just there. You see that car of Pironi's is incredibly slow there, and I'm sure that that's a throttle pickup problem.
Alfa Romeo has not won a Formula One race since 1951 in Spain, and they really hope that Mario Andretti will be their man to put it together this year and give them a checkered flag. Their second driver in the race, Bruno Giacomelli, who thumped and put either 6 or 7 cars out a year ago, was in contact with the Lammer car, Jans Lammer's ATS, and both of those cars have gone back to the pit area. I don't believe they've come back out.
There's Mario having a go around the outside. This is going to be one of those overtaking places that Jody's told us about. Up on the inside at the international hairpin, and round he goes.
Mario Andretti now in 4th position for Alfa Romeo. Ferrari dropping to 5th, and look at that crowd saluting Mario Andretti. But here comes the Ferrari back on the outside.
You see that extra speed? It's slow picking up. That's what makes me think it's a turbocharger problem. It's very slow picking up, but once it's got there, it's giving an awful lot of horsepower.
How do they look down there right now, Jody Scheckter?
Well, Pironi, as I said, he's got the legs down the straight there. If this can carry on, we're going to get a very exciting race. What Mario has to do is he has to overtake him on the beginning of the infield and get far enough away so Didier cannot get him down the straight.
53 laps of the 80 have been completed, and here is where the battle now is. It is between Ferrari and Alfa Romeo, two of the great names in racing, the Italian teams that go back to the beginning of Formula One Grand Prix. Well, two of Alfa Romeo back to 1914. Ferrari, really a relatively new name since World War II. Although Enzo Ferrari started with Alfa Romeo back in the 30s. Here they are, back down the main straightaway, Ocean Boulevard, down Linden Avenue into what is almost a negative camber corner, and still it is Pironi in 4th, but Andretti searching for a spot to pass once again. This is where he made it the last time.
Well, Mario, as Jody said, there he goes again. See around the outside. He's got desperate pickup problem there in that Ferrari, but unfortunately, he's going to pass him again on the straight unless Mario's really going to get this corner right this time. You can be rest assured that Mario was concentrating 110% around that corner that time to make the absolute best exit to try and maintain his lead down the straight. Now he'll start a little bit of weaving around. He won't actually block, but he won't actually let him by either. It's going to be kind of difficult as they come down to the Queen's Hairpin and Jody.
Can't try it on the outside. It's going to be very difficult to get him on the outside. I don't think he can make it. No, he can't. No, he can't. He's fallen in behind him. Now, Didier's got to try and stay on his tail so he can try and have another shot at him next time down the straight. And I think he's going to find that very difficult because Mario's very fast on the infield. I think Mario's got it now.
There you see the cars involved in the battle for 4th position. Mario Andretti continuing to move up the ladder in the championship points with directly behind him Didier Pironi as they pass Arenaux Booth another time and move on to Ocean Boulevard. Pironi falling back a ways. Now he should pull right back up here again in this long straightaway that is Ocean Boulevard.
Well, he'll pull a bit of it back, but like Jody said, that was the ideal place to pass him. I don't think that Peroni will have another crack at him now, because by the time they get round to the straight, he'll have just too much of a lead.
Eddie Cheever is moving in. Cheever of the United States is also moving in on Didier Peroni in the Italian Ferrari. Eddie Cheever in the blue, number 3, is right there, challenging. Let's see if Cheever's going to pull it off. He swings to the outside, and Eddie Cheever's picking up a spot. All the United States drivers are looking great here in Long Beach today. Around the International Hairpin, and the Tyrrell car with Eddie Cheever at the controls has picked up still another position. He is now running 5th overall, dropping Peroni into 6th.
Well, we could have 5 points for America here, but there's still a fair way to go yet.
We'd like to remind you as we watch Eddie Cheever coming down the main straightaway. Here's Peroni trying to make a move at the hairpin, the Queen's hairpin, and not able to do so. And here's the leader about to overlap those tail enders, Alan Jones. That coming up soon in June, CBS will be taking you to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We hope you'll be with us June 13th and 14th for that. At Long Beach, it's Alan Jones course. This course has been so well put together at Long Beach, California this year. And these people you now see coming out have been so well trained and done such an excellent job that it has made the entire weekend flawless. They've had several events, Formula Atlantic, motorcycles, go-karts, foot races, bicycles, celebrity races, all here. And these course workers have carried on through all of it, moving people off after they've had problems, done a great job. Box number 6 being pulled away.
Well, the course workers here in America and England are the class of the field. There's no doubt about it. Sometimes when one races on the continent and other countries, it's, you know, always got your heart in your mouth a bit in case something goes wrong. But I must say that here in America and in England, the course workers are tremendous.
There you see some of that crowd watching Alan Jones trying to win the first point-counting race of the 1981 campaign. His teammate, Carlos Reutemann, won the first race in South Africa. That was an on-point battle. But here today, it is Alan Jones still in front. Can he sustain from the 60th lap, 3/4 distance for 20 more laps?
He's a dedicated young racer, and he and I shared a car a couple of times in some long-distance races, and that was like putting the long and the tall together. There we see the leader, Alan Jones, sweeping around that long left-hander up to the international hairpin. In fact, he's about to put a lap on Eddie Cheever. Jones really running incredibly strongly this afternoon. Just consistent and fast at all times. Looks smooth, not taking any unnecessary risks, but really piling on the pressure. He's pulling away from his teammate, and of course he's going to lap the 5th spot.
61 laps into the race, Alan Jones out in front. When you're out in front in a race like this, Jody Scheckter, at this point, do you begin to feel the physical strain, the mental strain of the race, or does it all just go away?
Well, I think the natural thing is to think that he's all calm, he's got a big gap behind him, but in fact that's the time when you really worry. Every little noise in the car, you worry about something going wrong. You're watching the gauges. There's always something you feel, there's a vibration or something like that. And in fact, that's the most worrying time, and you've all really got to keep your concentration going, because that's when you make a mistake, when you start thinking that you've won, you're easy. Jack Brabham once hit the chicane, the last corner into the straight before the checkered flag, and lost the race by lack of concentration when he thought he had won it easily.
And this track is perhaps one of the most unforgiving. I would say this is even more unforgiving than Monte Carlo. These walls just don't ever give out.
It's a total concentration. I think that's where racing drivers, compared to other athletes, really have. They've got 2 hours where they don't have a break at all.
Eddie Cheever running in 5th position at the international hairpin. Cheever in the Tyrrell car, staying in 5th. Top 5, Jones, Reutemann, Piquet, Andretti, and Eddie Cheever.
I think it's a good point that Jody just made on concentration. He's absolutely right. There's very few jobs, very few sports that you have to do where for 2 hours you just absolutely have to concentrate 110%.
Third place car, Nelson Piquet, was known as the town with an average temperature of 70 and an average age of 91, but Long Beach Grand Prix has changed it all. They are all here today. We saw Gene Hackman down here a little earlier watching this race. Paul Newman's not too far away watching the event today. Paul Williams has flown back from San Francisco, where he performed last night, wandering around down there in the pits. And here is the 3rd place car that they're watching. That is Nelson Piquet, number 5, the man who won it last year.
This is going to be a strong car for the 1981 World Championship Series. And Nelson Piquet is one of the hottest young drivers around. He drove this race brilliantly last year. From then on, they had a bit of a sinking spell in the middle of the season. Then towards the end of the season, this car was pretty well unbeatable. And he's so very nearly won the World Championship from under the nose of Alan Jones, running in a very strong third spot today.
Williams cars run first and second. We have a Brabham running in third, an Alfa Romeo in fourth. At the present time, there is a Tyrrell in fifth. And let's go to Barry Gill.
Well, this is the end of Ferrari's run for this Long Beach Grand Prix. They've won it twice, but they're not going to win it now. Didier Pironi into the pits. It isn't tyres. It must be a more major problem. But Pironi, in his first ever drive for Ferrari, and of course Ferrari's debut in the turbo car, is over. Back to the commentary box.
So Didier Pironi wraps up the day, which started so well. And there remains the leader, Alan Jones, staying out in front. It was here a couple of years ago, and it seemed like he was on his way to victory, that problems came with the wing on the front of the car. Got a little unstable. Let's take a look at some of the cars that have retired from this race. Out of the race is Prost, De Cesare.
Fact. Every time you start your car, you burn more than gas. You burn money. Gas money. Because gas-robbing friction steals miles from your car and money from your pocket. What can you do? Fact. Use the black motor oil, Arco Graphite. The oil with graphite. The lubricant that makes Arco Graphite reduce gas-robbing friction better than any other leading oil. So it gives you the best gas mileage of any other leading oil. Drive further for less gas money with Arco Graphite. The oil that's fact, not friction.
Why choose a video recorder with this slow motion picture when you can choose one this clear? Introducing the new Zenith Beta Video Recorder, the clear choice. Look, Zenith slow motion.
Once again, we are here at Long Beach, California, and you are watching Alan Jones in car number 1 as he continues to lead by a good margin over the second place man, Carlos Reutemann, getting down to the finish. David?
There we see Mark Shearer walking along behind the pit rail on his way back to the pits after having dropped out so close to the end of this race.
There are 4 laps left to go in this race. Alan Jones, in those last 4 laps, does exhaustion concern you?
Yes, you do. It's similar to Monaco. You can't make any mistakes. You can't let the car drift out too wide. You've got to be on top of it all the time. Your concentration's got to be there, keeping it off the walls. And, of course, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of this, towards the end, you're getting a bit tired.
Alan Jones may be a bit tuckered, but he'll be a very happy tired tonight as he pulls more of an advantage over the second place man, Reutemann. I believe earlier I gave you some misinformation. The Formula Atlantic race was won by Geoff Brabham, now of San Clemente, California, the son of the former world champion Villeneuve. Jacques Villeneuve, the brother of Gilles, finished in second place, with Danny Sullivan in third, Rodriguez finishing in fourth, and Price Cobb was fifth in the Formula Atlantic race yesterday. In the foot race today, Nick Rose of Bristol, England, came around pretty well today and won that, with Bill Donikowski of Ann Arbor, Michigan, second in the 10,000-meter run, right? And Tony Stanings of Bristol, England, finished in third. All right, Jody Scheckter, we're now down to it. The last 4 laps of this event, and Alan Jones is looking very good. Do you think he can repeat his championship this year?
Well, it looks like he's got a very good start here. Winning the first race like this must put a lot of courage, a lot of enthusiasm into the team to have a good start to run the rest of the team.
But what about the rest of the year? Your team Ferrari, your old team Ferrari, with these new turbos. This is only the first time out, and this is not a track particularly conducive to turbos, as we've learned in the past from the Renaults. They're going to show some strength, and for certain, Alfa Romeo is looking stronger after today.
Yes, I'd say still the Williamses, they've been going very well last year. They won the championship, and this year they're starting out the same way. I would think the biggest contender is again going to be Nelson Piquet in the Brabham. He was a strong contender last year, and I would say it's going to look like that way. Mario Andretti in the Alfa Romeo, he may be coming up, but that good. He went very well today. It's going very well. I think that this race is obviously a test round. With normally the first race in the season is the Argentinian race, and this is now the first race. This circuit is very hard on the cars, very hard on the brakes, and it's shown that in the unreliability, and a lot of cars have fallen out today.
I think it's an interesting point, actually, that 3 more of the races we're going to see this year, the French Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix, and the Austrian Grand Prix, all take place on extremely high-speed circuits. And this is definitely going to favor the turbocharged engine cars of Renault, which we see closely following Jones here, and the Ferrari, and even the Alfa Romeo cars.
2 laps to go. 2 to go for Alan Jones. If it all holds together, he will win the first Grand Prix, counting for points, of the 1981 season. Reutemann second, Piquet third, Andretti fourth, Cheever fifth, Patrick Tambay sustaining 6th position at the present time. Blue boot and headed down Ocean Boulevard, and there will be 1 lap to go for Alan Jones to win his first championship race of the 1981 season.
And there we see that car bouncing and bobbing over those bumps at the end of Ocean Boulevard, down Linden Avenue, down that steep hill, bottoms out at the top, left, right sweep through here. There we see the Renault leading him, but 2 or 3 laps down. He comes down this long left-hander, which is where we saw him pass his teammate Reutemann earlier on, up to the international hairpin for the last time. Braking and swinging through this corner, be taking great care at this stage. He doesn't run over anything, run into anybody, and certainly keeping off those walls.
Alan Jones seeking his 11th career victory in Grand Prix racing.
Favorite of the crowd here at Long Beach. He had a house at Palos Verdes for a couple of years. And, of course, he's raced in America in Can-Am and Formula 5000, so he's well known to these American fans here, giving him a round of applause there as he goes down Shoreline Drive for the last time, coming up to Jody's position.
The 82nd performance in a Formula 1 Grand Prix race for Alan Jones will be a winning performance. Truly a virtuoso performance for Alan Jones on this very tight course, which has seen less than half of the field finish. Here he is through the gears for the final time, about to come up in front of us. The checkered flag is about to be unfurled, and the winner of the Long Beach Grand Prix for 1981 is Australia's Alan Jones. Alan Jones of Melbourne, Australia, has done it. He has won the first race of the season. Slowing down, waving to the crowd. His teammate Carlos Reutemann comes across in 2nd position. Reutemann finishing in 2nd place as Alan Jones brings his car to a halt. About to extricate himself from the machine, Nelson Piquet will finish 3rd. The man who put it all together, Christopher Pook, is taking Alan Jones from his car. Mario Andretti will finish in 4th today. Eddie Cheever is 5th. Patrick Tambay is 6th. And there is the car of Nelson Piquet across the line. And Alan Jones now pulling off the helmet and the mask, waving enthusiastically to the crowd, standing beside the man who has put together this amazing Formula 1 race in Long Beach, California. Congratulations.